Hi. Okay, this is going to be a very interesting story today because today I'm going to reveal to you my role in assisting the Patriarch Diodoros to get elected. This was back in 1980, December. Uh, Patriarch Benedictus passed away December 10th after ruling since 1957, which was the year of my birth. And there was a very acrimonious election because there was three bishops. One was too friendly to the PLO. The other one was too friendly to the Israeli government. And the other one was too friendly to nothing. The other guy was Diodoros from Amman. He seemed to be the perfect choice because up until then he had a sterling reputation. He used to build orphanages for kids. He was very generous and used to renovate the churches and the monasteries and so forth, and was very good with the Arab population and was very loved by all. So we thought that would be the best guy to have as a patriarch. But the election was deadlocked between these three. So So I was living at the monastery at the time, so just before we were going to sit down for dinner, all these, priests showed up, and archimandrites, because they wanted to have a meeting, what they're going to do, because they can't elect anybody. So I was sitting there in the living room watching these guys talk, and I'm starving, right? Because I'm always starving because I was dancing, so my caloric intake needed to be a very high level. And so I was very patiently waiting for the talk to finish. And then I hear one of the priests say, well, you know that Israel contacted the King Hussein and told him to stay out of the elections, not to throw his backing towards any of the three, just stay out of it. Because they knew if he threw his support behind the bishop from Amman, he would get elected. And the Israelis did not want Diodoros to elected. They wanted the other guy, who was their supporter, big supporter. So they were deadlocked. They didn't know what to do. And when I heard that, I remembered the story that Archimandrite Theodosius told me, who is an archimandrite. He actually saved King Hussein's life back in the 50s. When King Hussein was just a prince, he was just a little boy, he was like 12 years old or something. And there's discrepancy with how old he was and what happened exactly, but the facts are, as Queen Noor, to this day, repeats this story, is that he was with his uncle, and two assassins visiting the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, and Theodosius was very loved by the royal family. So he used to accompany them whenever they came to Jerusalem. So he was there with little King Hussein, little Prince Hussein, and the uncle. Now, two gunmen jumped out of the crowd and started shooting at the uncle. They shot him dead on the spot, and they shot Prince Hussein as well. But because his uncle had given him a big medallion to wear on his jacket, little Hussein was unhurt. But immediately after the shots rang out, Theodosius, the monk, grabbed little Hussein under his robes and took him away to the monastery. Now the discrepancy, how long he stayed there, officially he stayed there just a day before he was taken to Jordan. But I met with Theodosius at his monastery one time when I was accompanying Narkis on a journey, and we stopped over and he told me the story. He said he was there for over about a year. And little Prince always, and when he became a king, always loved Theodosius, always called him father, considered him to be his father because he felt so close to him. And he was always asking him, please tell me what I can do for you. And Theodosius never asked him for a favor, never, nothing, no money, no support, no help me, renovate the church, nothing for himself or for anyone else. So when I heard that Israelis had threatened King Hussein to not interfere with the elections, I immediately took Narkis aside and said, listen, let me give you an idea. He says, what's that? He said, I'm busy, can't you see? I said, yeah, but listen. You remember Theodosius, Father Theodosius? He said, yeah. He saved the king's life when he was a little prince. What if he was to write a letter to the king asking him for a personal favor to intervene in favor of Diodoros for the elections? And Narkis just stopped dead at his tracks. Oh, he says, what a great idea. How'd you ever think of that? I said, I'm hungry and I want to get to the food. So anyway, he asked me to go with him, but I couldn't because I didn't have a diplomatic passport. And he went and came back with a letter from the king, King Hussein, throwing his support behind Diodoros, and Diodoros got elected. So the deadlock was broken. So a couple of weeks later, I'm rehearsing the Jerusalem Theater, and in the afternoon, and I suddenly get this feeling of dread, like something bad has happened, like somebody's died, or like something's dying, or somebody needs help, or something. I keep getting this very dark feeling, and I feel like I have to return to the monastery immediately. Just like somebody was crying out for help. It was very strange. I never had that experience before in my life. So I told Flora Cushman, the choreographer, said, listen, I can't stay here anymore. I got to go back to the monastery. I'm not feeling well. Maybe I'm coming down with something, but I'll be back for the performance. I never went. It was the only performance I ever missed in my life. So I literally run downhill, because it's downhill from the Jerusalem Theater, downhill to the valley where the monastery is. And I see outside, there's one guy standing on the side of the road, because there's like the road is higher than the monastery. So he was standing there, looking out into the horizon. But I could see he had like a peripheral vision. So I couldn't tell. He didn't look at me. He just stood there. And I thought, this guy must be military or Secret Service or something. So I just walked in the back of the monastery where I have the key, but the door was open. So I closed the door behind me, and then I started yelling, Narkis, 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 and there's no answer. So I went up the stairs to where his apartment is, and I see him running water where he was doing his washing, but he was nowhere to be found. So I knock on his door, his steel door of his room, and no answer. So then I remember I knocked on all the doors, windows, nothing. So I thought he was dead. I thought they killed him. I thought this guy outside maybe killed him. So I go down again. I remember there's in the kitchen, the window was always left open. So I look up, and indeed it was open. And right beside where the window was, there was a pipe going up. And they have Jerusalem stone on the walls. So there's a little opening behind the pipe, and there's a protrusion of the rock. So I used to love climbing. So I just went up. I don't know how I did it. I just climbed up this thin pipe like this, got into through the kitchen window, and then started walking towards his room, which was right at the end of this long hallway, calling out, Narkis, Narkis, are you okay? Looking into all the rooms, and nothing. So I got to his door, and I was about to kick it in. I was knocking the door, nothing. I was about to kick it in, and I looked to my left, which was his bathroom, and it was huge. It was like a large room, and there was blood everywhere. And there was blood, like patches of blood on the wall, patches of blood on the floor. It was like somebody was taking him and hitting his head against the wall, like that. and in the sink, in the toilet, everywhere there's blood. I had never seen so much blood in my life. And so then I just flipped. So I went back and I just kicked that door open. It was like this thick, because these old monastery wooden doors with the things behind it. So I broke the whole thing off. And I go in, and there's Narcissus on the bed, with a towel around his head, blood everywhere. I said, what happened? What happened? You're alive. Are you alive? Hello? And he said, yeah, I'm alive. What? I said, what happened? He said, they came to kill me. I said, from where? They came to kill me from England. Who? The Masons, the Jews. I said, what? The Jews tried to kill you? Which Jews? He said, oh, then he kind of came to his senses a little bit. He says, oh, no, I fell. He said, I fell on outside on the stairs. I said, there's no blood out there. The only blood is in the bathroom. How did you come in with no blood? He said, I only started bleeding when I got here. I said, okay, sir. Okay, listen, I'm going to call the ambulance because you need to go to the doctor. He says, okay. And he went back into his, almost unconscious. So I walked out of the monastery, locked the door behind me, and the guy was still standing up there, still just looking like towards the monastery, but he was looking like in the horizon, like he had peripheral vision. So either he was a ballet dancer or Secret Service, and I knew he was no ballet dancer. So, but at that point I felt no fear. It was like, for me, it was like, I was ready to take on a whole army by myself. I didn't care. I got into that state of frame of mind where I just didn't give a damn, So what I did, I looked down. I got two pieces of rock, and I lifted them up, and then I looked at him, and he was still just looking away. He didn't look at me. I wanted to see him. I wanted to know. I wanted him to see me with two big pieces of rock in my hand. So I just walked, fast. I didn't run. I walked fast to the phone booth, 100 yards down the road, and I called the Magen David, the ambulance, the Israeli ambulance. Anyway, they came. I brought them up to his room, and as soon as he saw them, he said, "No, get them away from me right now. Get them away, out. You cannot be here. I'm a Greek Orthodox priest. I have a passport. You cannot be in the monastery. Leave right now." I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Take them away." He said, "They're going to kill me if they put me into a Jewish hospital." I said, "Okay." So sorry guys, but he's a priest and he needs to go to his own hospital in the old city, the Arab hospital, where they have Christian doctors. He says, "Okay, we understand." So they left rather easily. I thought it would be a lot harder to get them to leave. So they leave. So then out I go again. I pick it. There he is, still there. The guy's still standing. I pick up another couple of rocks. I look at him. He doesn't look at me, just still looking out in the horizon. I said, "Okay, this is going to be fun. We're going to see what happens this time." So obviously he saw the Magen David leave, and I'm coming out to make another phone call. So anyway, I walk down again, this time a little faster, and I call the taxi. And an Arabic taxi comes, and put his black towel around his head so there's no blood, can't see any blood, and then put him in a cab, go to the hospital. The doctor sees him and says, "What's happening? Are the priests killing each other over the elections?" I said, No. He fell on his head. He lost consciousness. He says, "How did he fall on the head?" How he can't fall on the top of your head. So that's what happened, because he lost consciousness and went like this on the stair step. It's marble, it's very sharp. He says he had 20 stitches. I said, "Yeah, well, it's very sharp, the marble there." So anyway, he didn't believe me. So anyway, he went back, and everything was okay. But a few days later, the Patriarch came, Diodoros, to the monastery. He thanked me profusely for what I did, saving his life. So "I'm going to give you a medal." I said, "Okay, sure." He never gave me a medal. In fact, He ended up being the worst patriarch ever. He even stole money from me, stole money from the patriarchate, and stole my money too, that I had saved up. And I left, because I used to collect silver coins with Alexander the Great's face on them from Antioch times. And apparently some of them were very valuable, and they were sold. I gave them to the trader that I was dealing with there in Bethlehem, and he sold them and gave the money to Narcisse. It was quite a bit of money. It was like $200,000. I had like 1,000 coins, which I was buying them by the weight in silver. So he just took the briefcase, and he said, "Oh, that's for me." He says, "No, that's Athanasius' money." "Yeah, okay, I'll take it." And he just took it, and took my money. That's the thanks I got. Patriarch Diodoros, may he rest in peace. Okay, thank you. Please subscribe, like, share. There's important stories to be told, because the truth must be told. We can all be truth tellers. Let's tell our stories. Let's communicate beyond the facade of differences we have. We have no differences. We're all human. We're just trying to survive. Let's help each other survive. Thank you. Have a great day.